He's involved in a number of businesses.
He's a great role model.
Telling it like it is, giving you both sides of the story. This is Cats at Night.
Great American, a great New Yorker.
Now, here's John Catsimatidis.
This is John Catsimatidis. This is Cats at Night, the number one show at 5 o'clock, and we're broadcasting out of WABC studios in Midtown, 770 on your dial, and this is a TriCast, also on AM 970 The Answer, and on WLIR in Long Island. In the studio with us today, we have a full house. We have Judge Richard Weinberg, and we have Governor David Paterson, Common Sense Democrats, Common Sense Republicans, former Chief of Staff Tony Carbonetti, and Ed Cox, former second son-in-law. And on my sidekick, Lydia Serrani. How are you, Lydia? How are you feeling? You feeling better?
I am feeling better, and I'm going to feel even better during this show because we have an action-packed hour for our, million listeners nationwide, maybe even into the solar system. We've got Ken Friedman, and we've also got Tom Keene Jr., Kathy Wild. Of course, she's with the Partnership for the Alliance for New York City to open up New York City. We'll talk more about this gun czar that Mayor Adams has appointed, Dr. Mark Siegel. But first on the line, Charlie Gasparino. Charlie, you've been a very busy guy today. I've been following your Twitter. You had some very interesting news about Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen. What do you have for us?
Well, the talk is that she's on the way out. I mean, she's clearly being de-emphasized. And by the way, they'll deny it, and Brian Deese tried to deny it. But Brian Deese, the head of the Biden Economic Council, National Economic Council, denied it as he was taking up all the airtime explaining the administration's viewpoints on the economy and inflation over the last couple of days. I mean, it's really interesting how that Brian Deese is running around saying, "Oh no, she's still a big part of the team," while he is doing all the talking. So it's clearly the torch is being passed from Yellen, who recently admitted she missed the inflation threat as Treasury Secretary. There clearly is people worried inside the administration that she isn't up to the task, that there has got to be a fall guy or fall gal for this inflation mishap that everybody thought was transitory, which turned out not to be transitory, and it looks like she's going to be the one, and the fall person. And the name that I keep hearing that will replace her is likely Gina Romano, the Commerce Secretary, who gets high marks. I mean, she's apparently a very accomplished, smart woman. She was the governor of Rhode Island. Pretty impressive resume. I went back and looked at it. It was pretty. She knows what she's doing. Gary Gensler, the SEC chair, is another name you hear, but I think top of the list is Gina Romano, and Yellen is likely out, particularly if they get their what's kicked in the midterms, which it looks like that's going to happen. So, and if they do get their rear ends kicked in the midterms, it's because they missed the inflation boat. And today the markets were up. It's a little bit like the calm before the storm. But if everybody I talk to thinks that we're going to head for some really tough waters ahead, particularly as the Fed keeps raising rates. Tomorrow's a key day. It's a jobs number. We'll see what happens tomorrow. See if it looks good. See what the markets do. So it's stuff is starting to happen in this economy. And then on top of it all, you got guys like Jamie Dimon saying the what could hit the fan, particularly as the Fed raises rates. So it's not a good time to be in the Biden administration now in economic policy or leading it. Their fingers are definitely being pointed, and right now we understand they're being pointed at Janet Yellen.
And is there a hurricane coming, like Jamie Dimon says? Well, you know what I've been telling everybody? I've been telling them that a hurricane is not necessary. It doesn't have to come if President Biden fixes North America. I don't know why he's begging the Saudis to give us more oil. I don't know why he's begging the Iranians to give us more oil, the Venezuelans. Because North American crude oil, if he opens up the spigots, oil will go down to 55, 60, 65, and inflation will go away.
It's funny you say that because Deese, if you know anything about him, and he is emerging as the point man on the economy now. His background was as the ESG czar at BlackRock. He was the guy pushing BlackRock, the $9 trillion money management firm, to impose all these ESG standards. I mean, he was empowered to do that. BlackRock has backed off of that a little bit since. Larry Fink has done not quite a 180, but he has softened that, saying that we need more of a transition into this ESG
Don't forget,
stuff.
Charlie, don't forget who makes all the batteries for the electric cars. It's China.
Of course, and they control
90%.
They control a lot of the lithium, and so it's really interesting. But Deese is taking those policies and he's implementing them in the White House. And this is a White House that's run by progressives, and Joe Biden has found his inner liberals since taking over. Or not even liberal. He's gone. He's mimicking Bernie Sanders in many ways, and the sort of lunatics are controlling the insane asylum now.
Yeah, I don't care about the word liberals. I really don't care. But this is hurting the United States of America. This is hurting every citizen.
John, they care. And here's the thing: these are extremely ideological people. They ignored Larry Summers last year when he said the spending was going to spur inflation. They are ignoring common sense policies like you're saying. As a matter of fact, Brian Deese came on our network today on Fox News and said that they're drilling now more than they drilled under Trump, which I don't quite understand what he means by that.
Deese is a very smart guy, very verbal, and they're going to be putting him out front because of that. He knows how to handle these issues and make some things that actually are pretty radical look sane.
That's theater.
But what do you make of this thing that he keeps saying that they drill more? We're drilling more now than under Trump. I mean, it kind of makes no sense.
Charlie, it's Richard Weinberg. All this is theater. The inflation speaks for itself. The economy being in trouble speaks for itself. When Biden makes a pronouncement, he's done everything he can. That's not true. He hasn't done virtually anything.
No, he's done what he. Charlie, it's Tony Carbonetti. He's done what he wanted to do, which is high oil prices allows him to then say, let's subsidize all the alternatives.
Well, yes, there is a method to the madness that Tony talks about here.
Yes.
And Brian Deese is a progressive ideologue on energy. Did it at BlackRock. He's doing it here.
We have to invest in the future because oil's so high.
And he knows how to dance in front of a TV, right? So he knows how to spin it. Biden obviously can't spin it. Kamala Harris can't spin it, but he knows how to kind of spin it a little bit. He's been practicing for years. He was Obama's auto czar during the bailouts of the automobile industry. Some of the automobile industry, a lot of them wanted to go into restructuring and bankruptcy and let the private sector handle it. He said, no, I want to keep it under government control. So that's how this guy thinks. And he is the guy that's basically saying to the American people, he's the way he's trying to spin it to the American people. You don't worry about it. This is economy in transition. Take a little heat and a little pain for now. It'll be better in the future. And that's kind of that is the message they're giving right now. I mean, you could see it in
it's not grounded in reality.
It's crazy, but it's sadistic, but it is what it is.
Charlie Gasparino, with President Biden's first executive order when he shut down that XL pipeline, John Catsimatidis, you called it. You said, watch, you're going to see gas prices. Everything trickles down from oil. Now we have Biden. He's planning to travel to Saudi Arabia this month to rebuild relations in an effort to lower gas prices.
Well, he's going to Saudi Arabia because they won't answer his phone calls.
That's true.
He's got to go kiss some behind right there.
I mean,
but he doesn't
you
need
can't
to.
make this up. You have to beg other countries to bail us out. Think about how insane that is. And that's this president. And by the way, that's probably why there's going to be a change in government. And unless Donald runs again.
Saudi Arabia just OPEC Plus is going to raise production. So probably Biden going over there as part of that deal.
Yes, yeah, that's true.
That's what happened.
And maybe we've reached peak inflation. But here's the problem. Everybody says, okay, we've reached peak inflation at 8%. Say it's subsidized, it settles at 6%. Then you have to look at the economy slowing down. And if the economy slows down, we can reach peak inflation and hit a recession. That's usually what happens. And I am telling you, everybody I know that's in the bond market is they're talking recession now. That it's really a possibility, despite what the market's doing today. They're looking at bonds. They're looking at rising yields, lowering prices. Lowering yields, higher prices. They are really looking at this
and
as
recession is not necessary. It doesn't have to happen, except never forget what President Obama said about Joe Biden. If there's a way to screw something up, he'll screw it up.
Yeah.
And if he doesn't straighten out the oil market by opening up the spigots in North America like he should,
but he won't.
And if he doesn't,
he won't.
Interest rates are going to keep going up. And you know what's going to happen? Interest rates go up. He's going to destroy the rest of the country.
Market's going to crash.
Here's how you know he won't do that, and you know that because Brian Deese is running the show. The economic show right now.
All right, Charlie, let us tell us about something a little bit more technical. When Jamie Dimon spoke about the economic hurricane, he mentioned a thing called QT. Now, I don't think anyone knows.
QT or QE?
Well, QE is over. It's now QT, tightening. And he thinks that's going to have a huge impact on the markets. What do you think about it?
Well, that's when the Fed, QE means the Fed literally goes out in the market and buys treasury bonds from banks and puts money in the banks on the bank's balance sheet so they can lend. It's a very heavy-handed. That's essentially how you print money. QT is the opposite of printing money. It's literally instead of buying the bonds,
the other name of that
QT
is Ponzi scheme.
Well, it's literally the Fed taking money out of the money supply because it sells the bonds on its balance sheet. It will sell. Those bonds come from banks and primary dealers, and that takes money out of the economy. So you do the opposite. It's a very heavy-handed way of raising interest rates, but when you get what we have now, which is significant inflation, it's one of the few things you have to do it. I mean, it's essentially only thing that can crush inflation, but it often leads to recession.
No one knows what it is, but Jamie Dimon is scared of it.
Well, I mean, I know it, and if you just
Jamie Dimon, I met him originally when he was working on. He worked on the Gore campaign.
Oh, interesting. Yeah,
that's where I met him originally. When he's one smart guy.
He's a Democrat, but Jamie's he'll vote for anybody if he thinks
he's Greek, isn't he, John?
Yes, he's Greek.
Yeah,
and that makes him smart.
No, he's one smart guy. He's done a terrific job at J.P. Morgan, and he's a big Democrat. But I think even he is frustrated right now.
He is. I mean, he didn't tell me that, but I know people would say that. Well, he sees the Biden administration as being sort of, not having their acts together in a way, and not in a way, in a huge way, which they don't. And so I think that irks somebody who is a management expert. I mean, what made Jamie Dimon such a great CEO? The one guy that kept the biggest bank out of getting bailed out and imploding was that Jamie came up through the ranks not as a trader or a salesman, none of those BS kind of jobs. He came in the ranks just basically managing the portfolio of companies that Sandy Weil was building to create Citigroup. So when Sandy would buy stuff, he'd be the guy to fix it, take it down, rationalize the headcount, make sure all the operations work. So this guy knows a business from the ground up. And so when he sees, and obviously he's done a great job with, he went to JP Morgan after he got blown out of Citigroup. He went to, he spent
Bank One. He went to
Bank One, but he spent a little time on the beach, went to Bank One, and Bank One was bought by JP Morgan, who bought him.
His father was my stockbroker.
Yeah, at Shearson, right?
No, eventually he went to J.P. Morgan. He worked for his son.
But remember, that's where he worked.
He was at Bear Stearns, I think. And
the father worked for Sandy Weil.
Yeah.
That's how Jamie got the job.
Yeah.
And we could talk all day about
until he fired Sandy Weil's daughter.
Yes, that's right. He fired
I have a question for whoever wants to answer it. Is this Biden administration really that clueless, or are they intent on destroying America? They're claiming they didn't know about inflation.
They
didn't know about the baby formula.
They're going to raise prices on gasoline so high, people say, please sell me electric cars.
Give me some wind power.
I think
but the baby formula, now we have to get it from Europe. I mean, this is an embarrassment.
I think it's a combo. I think the president is pretty incompetent, and I think a lot of it extends to him and how they deal with him, and he's all over the place, and you could tell like he's always angry, and he's not. You feel like he's not just doing the job; he's just screaming at people behind the scenes, or lashing out at reporters over stupid things. It really is. It's a sad situation. It's interesting because the Trump stuff. I remember covering Donald. I mean, Donald would be crazy, and he'd tweet out crazy stuff, and his people would have to put his tweets, try to figure out how to put him back in the bottle a little bit. But the policy wise, and the Trump White House ran pretty cleanly, and they had smart guys. They had Larry Kudlow. They had Mnuchin, they had Mick Mulvaney. They had real people that knew what they were doing.
Real people.
These guys just, you don't get the impression. And Trump, as crazy as he is, let them run the show. Like when they, remember there was that book by Esper came out, the former, I guess, defense secretary or national security guy, Mike Esper. He said that, Trump just mused off the top of his head, why don't we just bomb some of these Mexican drug cartels? And he was like, oh, Mr. President, you can't do that. Well, guess what? He didn't do it. Most of the stuff that Trump said that was crazy, that he opined about, he left it to everybody else. And things kind of worked out for the most part.
Well, Charlie Gasparino, thank you for speaking out for all of us. And you say it the way it is. That's why me and you get along well.
I know.
You say it the way it is. And we'll catch up again real soon.
Anytime, John. Talk to you guys soon. Bye.